Well, here we are at part 3 of pleating to the set. Continuing directly on from the last part where I've rolled up my spare bit of cloth because we've reduced the height of the kilt. Once we've done all of the chalking, it's only then we reduce the height of the kilt and rolled up the spare bit. And as you can see, I've marked the corresponding mark with the center element of the front apron. I'll make that mark before I rip the cloth because there can be subtle differences along a piece of cloth because it's an organic material. This measurement between the two lines or between any two matching elements of the tartan aren't going to remain completely constant over the entire 8-yard, 7.4 meter length of the cloth. There's going to be little variations. So by marking this to correspond with that, when the kilt is done and I put on the top band, I match this to the center of the front apron, and then I have the greatest chance of getting a properly matched cloth. Because if I did it from, say, here, there might be in fact, we can see it right there. There's just a slight difference in length right there, right? That's slightly too big. So I make that mark, I roll this up, I put it to the side, and I begin sewing the first pleat to the second pleat. Because again, as I've mentioned earlier, by sewing the pleats and then I'll measure when I get to the halfway point to see how I'm getting on, to see if I'm accurate enough. In the worst case scenario, I have to undo pleats and do it again. But when I finish sewing the 35 pleats, I then measure to make sure that my plan has, my plan has survived contact with reality, that I have 22 inches of, or 20, I should say 20 inches at the waist and 16.5 inches at the hip. Because if it's different from that, I'm going to have to compensate that. And it shouldn't be much, but it's not the end of the earth if it is, right? Because we're talking about a yarn, it's 30 of an inch. And if you're out one yarn each time, it does add up, right? It's going to add up a full inch, actually. So by sewing the pleats and only then sewing the apron, we have a greater chance of a higher level of success. And incidentally, in answer to a question that was asked, how to pleat to the stripe, we go through the same steps. We lay out the aprons, we lay out the hidden pleats, and then we count the number of repeats between the two. But in that case, we know that the maximum number of pleats we could have, which in this case was 37, we know we can have 37 pleats because we don't have this creeping effect as we move from along the elements of the tartan, from there to there to there and so on. It's constant each time. So I can plan for 37 pleats and the certain knowledge that I will be able to have 37 pleats at the end of it. So there we go. I'm going to put the camera down. I'm going to start sewing because, hey, the gentleman's waiting on his kilt.